Welcome to my channel, Value Old Coins. Here you'll find videos about rare, valuable, and interesting coins from around the world. Watch the videos, learn about coin history, coin values, and unique facts you won't find anywhere else. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you even more amazing coin content. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. The 1965 United States quarter dollar stands as one of the most historically significant issues in modern American coinage, representing a turning point in the nation's monetary history. This quarter belongs to the Washington Quarter Series, which was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The obverse of the coin prominently displays a portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. His profile faces left, showing his tied-back hair and stern but dignified expression, symbolizing strength, leadership, and the enduring values of the United States. Above his head, the word liberty arches across the top rim, serving as a reminder of the founding ideals of the nation. Just below his chin, the motto "In God We Trust" is inscribed, reflecting the national sentiment and long-standing religious faith that became an official motto of the United States in the mid-20th century. At the very bottom of the obverse, the year of issue 1965 is clearly visible, marking the beginning of a new era in American coinage. On the reverse side of the coin, the design is equally iconic. It features a majestic bald eagle with widespread wings perched upon a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength, preparedness, and the ability to defend the nation if necessary. Just beneath the arrows is an olive branch, representing the American desire for peace. Above the eagle's head is a Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, a phrase that underscores the unity of the United States, forged from many states, cultures, and peoples into one nation. Around the outer rim of the reverse, the inscriptions United States of America and quarter dollar clearly identify the coin's issuing country and denomination. The design as a whole embodies a balance between peace and strength, ideals central to the American spirit during the mid-20th century. The composition of the 1965 quarter is one of its most important characteristics. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper, a standard composition that had been in place since the 18th century. However, due to rising silver prices and increasing demand for coinage in the early 1960s, the United States Treasury and the Mint faced a shortage of silver that threatened production of coins. To address this, Congress authorized the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters. Beginning with the 1965 issue, quarters were struck with a clad composition, an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gave the coins a silvery appearance similar to their predecessors, but with no precious metal content. The clad quarter weighed 5.67 grams, measured 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and had a reeded edge of 119 reeds. This shift marked the permanent end of circulating silver quarters in the United States, making the 1965 quarter a transitional and historically significant coin. Another interesting aspect of the 1965 quarter is that no mint marks were used on quarters struck between 1965 and 1967. This was an intentional decision by the Mint to discourage coin hoarding, as many Americans were collecting and saving coins with specific mint marks in the belief that they would become valuable. Therefore, all 1965 quarters appear without a mint mark, regardless of whether they were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mints. This uniformity makes the date instantly recognizable and emphasizes its role as the start of a new clad coinage era. Despite the lack of mint marks, an immense number of quarters were struck in 1965, over 1.8 billion pieces, making it one of the most heavily produced coins of its time. This enormous mintage ensured that the 1965 quarter will become a common sight in circulation across the country. From a numismatic perspective, the 1965 quarter holds special importance not because of rarity, but because of its historical context. Collectors recognize it as a first clad quarter and as a symbol of the end of silver coinage for everyday transactions. However, the coin is generally common in circulated grades, and even uncirculated examples are widely available. Its true significance lies not in scarcity but in symbolism. The 1965 quarter represents the changing economic conditions of the 1960s, when the government had to adapt to the realities of global silver prices, industrial demand, and public expectations of coinage. Some rare transitional errors are known, particularly a small number of 1,965 quarters struck on leftover 90% silver planches intended for earlier years. These silver 1965 quarters are highly prized by collectors as they combine the new clad era date with the obsolete silver composition. Culturally, the 1965 quarter is remembered by many Americans of the era as a coin that filled their pockets, vending machines, and cash registers during a period of social transformation in the United States. It circulated heavily through a time of civil rights struggles, Cold War tensions, space race achievements, and shifting cultural values. Its familiar design featuring Washington and the eagle gave citizens a sense of continuity even as the metal content and economic realities changed around them. For everyday Americans, the quarter remained a trusted unit of exchange, whether used to buy a newspaper, a soda, or a bus ticket, demonstrating the adaptability of American coinage to both tradition and progress. In conclusion, the 1965 United States quarter dollar is more than just a piece of pocket change. It is a tangible artifact of monetary history, technological adaptation, and cultural continuity. It preserves the enduring image of George Washington and the proud bald eagle while quietly signaling the end of silver coinage in circulation. With its copper-nickel-clad composition, massive production numbers, and absence of mint marks, it stands as both a common coin and a landmark in the story of American money. For collectors, historians, and everyday people alike, the 1965 quarter tells a story of transition, resilience, and the ability of the United States to adapt its traditions to the needs of the modern era. The 1966 United States quarter dollar belongs to the Washington Quarter Series, which was first issued in 1932 to celebrate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. By 1966, this series had already become a familiar part of American life, carrying the enduring image of the nation's first president. On the obverse side, we see the left-facing profile portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington's likeness is simple yet commanding, with his hair tied back in a queue, reflecting the neoclassical artistic style that had been favored in American coinage since the 18th century. Arching across the top of the coin is the word liberty, the central theme of the American Republic since its founding. To the left, just below Washington's chin, appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase officially adopted in 1956 and placed on all coinage as a declaration of faith and resilience. At the very bottom of the obverse, centered beneath Washington's bust, is a date 1966, a clear reminder of the specific year of issue, a time when the United States was undergoing profound social, political, and economic changes. Turning the coin over to the reverse side, the design is dominated by a powerful depiction of the American bald eagle, the national bird and an enduring symbol of strength and freedom. The eagle sits proudly atop a bundle of arrows, signifying the nation's readiness to defend itself and its values if challenged. Below the arrows is an olive branch, which conveys the American preference for peace, showing that the country seeks harmony but will not hesitate to take up arms when necessary. Above the eagle's head floats the Latin motto E pluribus unum, which translates as out of many, one. This is a guiding principle of the United States, emphasizing that although the nation is composed of many different states, regions, and peoples, they form one unified country. Encircling the reverse are the inscriptions United States of America at the top and quarter dollar at the bottom, leaving no doubt about the origin and denomination of the coin. This reverse design, unchanged from earlier years, represents continuity and tradition at a time when the coin's metal content and the American economy was shifting dramatically. The most significant feature of the 1966 quarter is its composition. Prior to 1965, quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, a standard dating back to the nation's earliest coinage laws. However, rising silver prices in the early 1960s, combined with a shortage of the metal, forced the United States Mint and Congress to take action. With the Coinage Act of 1965, silver was removed entirely from the dime and quarter, replacing it with a clad composition. The 1966 quarter, like the 1965 before it, was made from an inner core of pure copper, sandwiched between two outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This clad construction preserved the silver-like appearance of the coin while ensuring that no precious metal was lost to rising prices or hoarding. The 1966 quarter has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, a thickness of 1.75 millimeters, a weight of 5.67 grams, and a reeded edge with 119 reeds, continuing the familiar look and feel of the silver quarters that Americans had known for decades. Though it lacked silver, the coin maintained its role as a trusted piece of currency. One important fact about the 1966 quarter is the absence of mint marks. Between 1965 and 1967, the U.S. Mint deliberately left off mint marks on all quarters, dimes, and half dollars. This was a decision made to discourage coin hoarding, as collectors and the public had been saving vast quantities of coins based on mint mark varieties, creating circulation shortages. By eliminating mint marks, the Mint hoped to calm the frenzy and redirect coins into everyday commerce. This means that no matter where 1966 quarter was struck, whether at Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it carries no identifying mint mark. This anonymity makes the 1966 quarter instantly recognizable, not for its rarity, but for its role in a unique period when the Mint sought to stabilize the nation's coin supply. Over 821 million quarters were minted in 1966, an enormous figure designed to meet the growing demand of a booming American economy. In terms of collectability, the 1966 quarter is generally considered common. Because of its large mintage and lack of silver content, most circulated examples are worth only face value today. However, uncirculated examples, especially those preserved in high grades, remain attractive to collectors who appreciate their historical importance. Additionally, special 1966 quarters were struck in special mint sets SMS, a substitute for proof sets during the years 1965 to 1967. These coins often have a sharper strike, more reflective surfaces, and better overall eye appeal than regular circulation strikes. Collectors particularly value high-quality SMS quarters, and some are known with cameo or deep cameo finishes, where the frosted details contrast beautifully against mirrored fields. While not extremely rare, these coins are sought after and represent the Mint's effort to provide collectors with something special during a time when traditional proof sets were not produced. The historical context of 1966 also adds depth to the story of this quarter. America was in the midst of great change. The civil rights movement was reshaping society, the Vietnam War was escalating, the space race was driving technological progress, and the Cultural Revolution was redefining art, music, and identity. Through all of this, coins like the 1966 quarter remain a constant in daily life, jingling in pockets, dropping into vending machines, and paying for everyday needs. For many Americans, these quarters were not just money, but tangible connections to their nation's history and values. Even though silver was gone, the familiar image of Washington and the proud eagle reassured people that the coinage system remained strong and dependable. In conclusion, the 1966 United States quarter dollar represents more than just another date in the Washington Quarter series. It symbolizes a nation's adaptation to economic pressures, the transition from precious metal to modern clad coinage, and the enduring power of national symbols in a time of rapid change. Its design, unchanged from earlier years, connected to America's founding ideals, while its copper-nickel composition reflects the realities of a new era. Though common in circulation, it is historically significant as part of the no mint mark years and as an artifact of the mid-1960s economic and cultural landscape. For collectors, historians, and everyday Americans, the 1966 quarter is both a practical coin and a silent witness to one of the most transformative decades in United States history. The 1967 United States quarter dollar is one of the most historically significant issues within the Washington Quarter series, not because of rarity or precious metal content, but because it embodies a transitional period in American coinage. The Washington Quarter itself was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By the late 1960s, the design had become familiar to every American, a noble left-facing bust of George Washington on the obverse, paired with a proud American bold eagle on the reverse. On the obverse, Washington's profile, designed by John Flanagan, shows a founding father's strong features, with his hair tied back in the classical style. Above his head arcs the inscription Liberty, reminding citizens of the nation's founding ideal. To the left of his bust, the national motto, "In God We Trust," is clearly engraved, expressing both religious conviction and patriotic identity. Centered below the portrait appears the date 1967, which tells us not only the year of minting but also immediately signals to collectors that this coin belongs to the unusual no-mint mark era. On the reverse, the imagery remains equally powerful. The centerpiece is the American bald eagle, wings spread wide in a posture of majesty and strength. The eagle perches on a bundle of arrows, representing military readiness and defense of freedom, while just below rests an olive branch, symbolizing peace. Above the eagle's head is a phrase E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one, a motto that emphasizes the unity of the United States despite its diversity of states, people, and backgrounds. Circling the top of the coin is the inscription United States of America, and at the bottom is a denomination $quarter. Together, these inscriptions leave no doubt about the coin's origin and value, reinforcing both national pride and the coin's place in the economy. The design balances tradition, power, and continuity, maintaining the Washington quarter's symbolism even as its metal composition had changed dramatically. The composition of the 1967 quarter is a crucial part of its story. Until 1964, quarters had been struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. Rising silver prices and a coin shortage in the early 1960s, however, forced Congress to pass the Coinage Act of 1965, which permanently removed silver from the dime and quarter. Starting in 1965, all quarters were made of a clad construction, a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel. The 1967 quarter therefore weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge with 119 reeds. While the new copper-nickel-clad surface gave the coin a silver-like appearance, it contained no actual silver. This change reflected the realities of mid-1960s economics, when the government had to preserve precious metal resources and ensure a stable coin supply. For Americans at the time, this meant the coins in their pockets looked the same but no longer held the intrinsic value of silver. Another defining feature of the 1967 quarter is the absence of mint marks. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from all coins, including quarters, as part of a policy intended to discourage coin hoarding. During the early 1960s, collectors and the general public began hoarding large numbers of coins, especially those with certain mint marks or containing silver, believing they might increase in value. This contributed to circulation shortages. By eliminating mint marks, the mint sought to make all coins uniform and reduce the incentive for hoarding. Therefore, all 1967 quarters, regardless of whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, appear without mint marks. This policy ended in 1968, when mint marks were restored, making the 1965 to 1967 quarters unique in U.S. numismatic history. The mintage of 1967 quarters was extremely high, reflecting both the nation's population growth and the government's attempt to alleviate the coin shortage. More than 1.5 billion quarters were produced in 1967, making it one of the largest issues of its time. Most were struck for circulation, but a special subset of 1967 quarters were produced in special mint sets SMS. These SMS coins were created for collectors during the years when traditional proof sets were not issued. The 1967 SMS quarters are often more sharply struck, with smoother surfaces and sometimes a semi-proof-like finish. Collectors prize examples with cameo or deep cameo contrast, where the frosted design elements stand out against mirrored fields. Though not rare, they remain desirable for their beauty and historical uniqueness. From a collector's perspective, the 1967 quarter is generally common in circulated condition. Millions still exist in everyday coinage, and most have little more than face value. However, uncirculated examples in pristine condition, especially SMS pieces with cameo contrast, are more valuable. Additionally, error coins exist, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or coins struck on planches intended for other denominations. Such mint errors from 1967 can be rare and command strong premiums. Another curiosity for collectors is the possibility of transitional errors, such as quarters struck on leftover silver planches, though these are exceptionally rare for 1967, more commonly associated with 1965. The historical context of 1967 further enriches the story of this coin. America in 1967 was experiencing social upheaval, marked by the height of the Vietnam War, ongoing civil rights struggles, cultural revolutions in music and art, and the beginning of the space race's most ambitious years. Amid these dramatic changes, the Washington quarter remained a familiar piece of everyday life. Americans used these coins in vending machines, at gas stations, for movie tickets, and in countless other daily transactions. Even though the silver was gone, the quarter remained trusted, its design linking the turbulent 1960s to the values of the nation's founding. In many ways, the 1967 quarter represents both continuity and adaptation. Continuity in design and symbolism, adaptation in composition and production practices. In conclusion, the 1967 United States quarter dollar is a coin that carries both historical and cultural significance. It is not rare, but it is meaningful. Its obverse and reverse designs continue to project the ideals of liberty, faith, strength, and unity, while its copper-nickel composition reflected the economic realities of the time. The absence of mint marks, the massive mintage, and the availability of special mint set examples all mark 1967 as a unique chapter in numismatic history. For collectors, the coin serves as a reminder of the transition from silver to clad coinage, while for everyday Americans, it was simply part of the fabric of life in a decade of great change. Today, the 1967 quarter remains a common coin in circulation, yet it is also a lasting artifact of an era when America's coins, and the country itself, were being reshaped for the modern age.